Well, today was the last day of the Krhd 25 News blood drive in the Brazos Valley, the impact it's having on a major need in the state coming up. And you may have noticed a power outage this morning if you live in the College Station area. How a little balloon caused a lot of trouble. Your Krhd News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is Krhd News.
Good evening and thank you for joining us this Friday for Krhd News at 5. I'm Hallie Jones. Krhd 25 News and Baylor Scott & White have teamed up for the last 2 days to help address a major problem across the area. Krhd News reporter Rebecca Fiedler was there today and brings us more as we wrap up the donation drive.
I'm out here at Baylor Scott & White Medical Center and College Station for the last day of this week's mobile blood drive. The blood bus team collected 16 units of blood yesterday. Today, they've collected a total of 15 units from donors like Stacy French.
It's just that it's been such on shortage with people being worried about coming out and things like that. You know, the times are strange right now, so it's difficult to get people to donate when it's needed, but the hospitals are full, so we need to make sure we have what we need for the community.
French is also a pharmacist at Baylor Scott & White, but this is the first time she's given blood. She finally decided to become a donor because the team at Baylor Scott & White made the process so quick and easy.
They made it really easy here, so they sent us an email and told us when it was going to be and let us set up appointments, so it was super simple to just come down on my lunch break and get it done.
While the blood bus collected these units of blood over the past 2 days, the number of participants is lower than it would have been for a pre-pandemic blood drive.
People are a little bit more shy and timid about coming out with everything going around, and I can understand.
Still, blood bus team members like Krhd Navarrete say they're thankful for any donations they get. Donating to save lives. Reporting in College Station, Rebecca Fiedler, Krhd News.
Yesterday alone, Baylor Scott & White was able to collect more than 16 units of blood, but the need for blood in Texas is still very, very high. Blood levels are at the lowest they've been in decades. To help ease the burden, deferral for blood donations has gone down 9 months for several groups of people. This includes those with tattoos or piercings from unlicensed facilities, people who have received blood transfusions, healthcare workers who have accidentally been struck by a needle, and people who have traveled to areas impacted by malaria. If you fit into one of these groups and want to donate blood, you now only have to wait 3 months instead of 12. And if you have any questions about your eligibility to give blood, we have a phone number and a website for you on your screen right now. If you're unsure about your eligibility, call 405-419-1538. For frequently asked questions, visit txbi.org for more information. And to learn more about how the blood drive helped those across the Brazos Valley, connect with us online. Pull out your phones, open the camera app, and scan the QR code that's right here on your screen. A notification banner will pop up at the top of your screen. Tap that banner to access our website and all of our social media accounts. A major crash involving 2 vehicles and a passing train closed 2 lanes this afternoon in College Station. College Station PD responded to Luther Street and Wellborn Road just before 1 p.m. this afternoon. The crash involved a BMW, a Kia, and a passing train. The driver of the Kia was uninjured, but one person was transported to a local hospital. Both the northbound and southbound lanes of Wellborn Road have been reopened. Well, some residents in College Station dealt with a rather unpleasant surprise on this very hot day in Brazos County, a power outage. Krhd News reporter Hannah King shares what caused the disruption and how we can all be eyes and ears for our neighbors as graduation season continues.
Nearly 1,500 College Station Utilities customers in the neighborhood of Pebble Creek experienced a power outage this morning, and the culprit is not something that immediately comes to mind when causing chaos and a disruption like this, but it happens more often than you think. Since this happens quite often, leaders at College Station Utilities have framed them once they address the issue and they put it on their wall of shame. Since 2018, 5 of these Mylar balloons have caused power outages affecting 1,000 to 2,000 customers at a time.
Nobody who buys a balloon ever thinks it's going to end up in a power line. And, you know, if they're tied loosely to something, they come undone and they float up. And then once the helium dissipates, then they start their way down. That's when they cause problems for folks.
Leaders urge residents to be extra cautious and safe with metallic balloons as graduations and parties continue to be held. Reporting in College Station, Hannah King, Krhd News.
We're in the midst of several shortages, but this one is deadly. The country is running out of affordable Naloxone. Many pharmaceutical companies sell this overdose reversal drug. Pfizer is the only one that offers it at a discounted price. The company stopped production in April due to a manufacturing issue, which it says is unrelated to the COVID vaccine.
And so we are currently back ordered by over 250,000 doses of naloxone. So that is where we're at between late April and early August.
She says that back order will only get worse. This comes at a time when drug overdoses are at an all-time high. Deaths reached 93,000 in 2020 and 30% increase from 2019. Pfizer's manufacturing isn't expected to get back on track until February. And the FDA has approved the first treatment for a rare sleep disorder. It's a condition that causes excessive sleepiness during the day, even after a full night's sleep. The drug is already approved for treatment of narcolepsy. The FDA says the treatment will be under strict safety controls and will be available in retail pharmacies. And the FDA has approved the first treatment for a rare sleep disorder. It's a condition that causes excessive sleepiness during the day, even after a full night's sleep. The drug is already approved for treatment of narcolepsy. The FDA says the treatment will be under strict safety controls and will not be available in retail pharmacies. Well, a retired Texas A&M biochemistry professor is seeing many years of theories become a reality. Joseph Noyjavari first proposed the theory that chemicals were used by Antonio Stradivari to help provide the unique sounds produced by his famous Stradivarius violins over 40 years ago. Now, in a new research paper, the study finds that he and other famous instrument makers of the time utilized chemicals and preservatives to treat their instruments while also yielding unique sound.
Stradivari probably, or most likely, started out with fresh, wet wood, moist wood, where the wood cells are still open, and that's how he put it in maybe in a tank of water with salt, and then eventually saturated it with salt.
Today, only about 600 Stradivari violins exist in the world. They have been valued at an upwards of $10 million.
Signs about coin shortages are showing up again. Coinstar's president says there are plenty of coins out there, they're just not in the right spots. It's a different issue than what we saw last summer. People are going to stores again, unlike 2020. So now the demand for coins is there, but Coinstar's president says people aren't bringing their change back into the market like they typically do. He says typically change sits at your house and then you take it to a bank or another place to cash it in, but that's not happening the same way it used to.
If half of the U.S. households brought in just $5 or spent $5, right? You don't even have to bring it to a bank or a Coinstar. That would be $320 million worth of change that would pretty much make this go away overnight. So it doesn't take a lot for this to correct itself.
Coinstar says that about $18 billion in coins is sitting in people's homes right now. And he says making more coins isn't the answer.
Minting is helpful, but it's not what's going to get us over this anytime soon. And frankly, nor should it. There's coin out there. We don't need to be minting new coin.
The Federal Reserve says it continues to work with the U.S. Mint and others in the industry to keep coins circulating. Reinstated a cap in May on the orders depository institutions place for coins with the Federal Reserve, and that's to make sure the supply is fairly distributed. The U.S. Mint has been operating at full production capacity since last summer. It produces nearly 15 billion coins in 2020. That was a 24% increase over 2019. Coinstar's president says although people used less cash earlier in the pandemic, he's seeing that's not as much the case anymore. Now, many schools are returning to in-person learning, but a growing number of parents are choosing to homeschool their kids. Ahead in our lineup, why it's especially popular among Black families. More job postings are including getting vaccinated as part of their work requirements. Job site Indeed found postings with this doubled from July to August. Still, the number remains low considering the total number of job postings out there. Many also don't explicitly name COVID as the vaccine that's required for new hires. Now, more corporations are recruiting Black college students for internships and job interviews. Officials with the nation's top historically black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs, say there was a dramatic increase following the death of George Floyd. Black colleges have also received millions of dollars in donations from major companies. HBCUs say it's still too soon to know just how many black college grads are actually getting hired. Now, there are usually fewer southern border crossings this time of year because of the heat, but new numbers show July was the busiest month for illegal border crossings in 2 decades. U.S. Customs and Border Protection reported taking over 212,000 people into custody. DHS says the surge is partially due to the resurgence in the U.S. economy and also the immigration policies of the previous administration. President Biden has changed some policies, but is continuing to use one that's called Title 42. It allows border agents to refuse entry to most migrants without the opportunity to apply for asylum.
It is critical that intending migrants understand clearly that they will be turned back if they enter the United States illegally and do not have a basis for relief under our laws.
Meantime, there are concerns that tens of thousands of migrants crossing illegally into Texas's Rio Grande Valley are driving COVID cases there, but health leaders say in the area those claims are baseless.
It's fair to say that they're part of it, as well as the unvaccinated, the mutations, the people unable to get the vaccine, the summer travel, the going back to school. I think they're one of many factors.
Now, the area's highest ranking public health leader tells their partners at Newsy that migrants tested had 16% as far as an infection rate, which roughly mirrors citizens in the valley. The federal government is admitting unaccompanied minors and families with young children, but is sending everyone else back to Mexico under public health laws. Those allowed to stay are processed in U.S. Border Patrol custody and given masks. They're tested for COVID by charities and local authorities when they're released.
And we have seen a few gray clouds out there for today, and there could be a spotty isolated storm or two as we make our way into the evening hours. But I think most of us are probably going to just see humid conditions, 93 feeling like 99. So it has been slightly cooler today with a few more clouds around and winds around the west-southwest at 8 miles per hour. They've been pretty variable for today and not too strong. Where they are stronger is out into the tropics, but we still are looking at a tropical depression. This is Fred here over Cuba, and that's why it can't strengthen. It's moving more at a westerly direction than west-northwest, so that's put it back over land. Can't develop when that happens, even though we're seeing these bright cloud tops. So that's just some thunderstorms, but no well-defined center to get this really going once again. And Fred will probably stay a tropical depression over the next 12 hours or so as it is overland, but as it emerges out into the eastern Gulf of Mexico, probably going to generate into a tropical storm again. Could get up to about 50-mile-per-hour winds, and the track has shifted off to the left a little bit, so it looks like the Florida Panhandle, Alabama, Georgia going to get the main effects from this, not here across the Brazos Valley. But there is a storm system off to the west. This is going to drift to the east, and that may give us a slightly better chance of rain, especially as we move into Sunday. So for your Saturday, not looking too bad out there. Maybe an isolated storm or two. But on Sunday, that's when our better chances for some scattered showers and thunderstorms will arrive. Locally heavy downpours, some gusty winds will be possible with that. And looking at temperatures for tonight, down into the 70s. And then we're looking at highs in the mid-90s, but feeling like over 100 degrees when you factor in that humidity. Best chance of rain over the weekend on Sunday, slowly decreasing as we move into next week with highs returning to the mid to upper 90s.
A special sign-up period for Obamacare ends Sunday. More than 2.5 million Americans have signed up on healthcare.gov since it reopened in February. Regular sign-up begins November 1st. School looks a lot different this year for many families, and that's by choice, even more so among families of color.
I think the situation we were all in showed parents that this is my responsibility. I'm not going to advocate it any longer. I've got to do something to help my child.
Joyce Burgess is the founder of the National Black Home Educators Organization. She and her husband started the group back in the early 90s when they were homeschooling their 7 children. Now, they wanted to connect with other black families and incorporate black curriculum. She says interest in homeschooling among black families exploded during the pandemic for a variety of reasons. According to U.S. Census data, black households had the largest increases in homeschooling rates. from 3% in the spring of 2020 to more than 16% in the fall. Burgess teared up while telling us about a mom who recently started homeschooling her 9-year-old daughter who couldn't read.
She said, I created this spelling list of words like cat, bat, rat, fat, mat. And on the way to the grocery store, our car became a spelling vehicle.
Now, there are some common misconceptions that may keep families from homeschooling, like parents think it's for religious reasons, or homeschooling's too expensive, or they aren't educated enough themselves. Burgess says her group and others offer nearly every specialty resource that a family could need.
There are moms like myself who are willing to mentor you and to help you in this process.
Usher Qureshi introduces us to a family that's new to homeschooling.
Like millions of children around the nation, the first few months of the pandemic meant distanced learning for 12-year-old Dorian Valentine.
It's kind of dry. I liked it, but it wasn't that fun.
He would maybe say here or present in the morning, and then there was little to no engagement after that.
Dorian's grades were slipping as he stared at a screen for hours on end. For mom Angela, it quickly became clear that learning away from the classroom was not working for the 7th grader.
I just thought I saw the light of learning and the enthusiasm for learning just kind of waning in him, because of the pandemic, because he was separated from his friends, new teachers, new students, new environment. Everything was so new, and there was just little to no engagement, and it just wasn't a good situation.
A Google for Education certified trainer herself, she decided to take matters into her own hands and became a first-time homeschooler.
I understand we were all in this transition period, but I just kind of felt like I could do a little bit better job with him one-on-one.
Since 2012, homeschooling rates have remained steady at about 3.3% of households with school-aged children. But for many like Valentine, the pandemic gave them a chance to try it out.
Hey, you guys, thanks for joining today.
It turns out more and more American families are abandoning the classroom to learn at home. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the rate of households homeschooling more than doubled from 5.4% in March of 2020 to 11% just 6 months later in September. In Black and African American homes, it jumped by 5 times. Valentine began with resources and curriculums from the National Black Home Educators Organization, eventually tailoring her teaching style.
I did have to do trial and error and find out how he learns, what his strengths were, what his weaknesses were, and how to curate learning in a fun way that would re-engage him again.
With the Delta variant running amok, spotty vaccination rates, and the uncertainty of in-classroom learning conditions, she's decided not to send Dorian back to the classroom this fall.
We're going to try it again. Yeah, we're going to definitely build upon what we've learned and those strengths and those weaknesses, and just keep working at it till we find our rhythm.
Finding that rhythm has meant moving into a space outside the home and reaching out to other families to create a homeschooling pandemic pod.
We found that even bringing the kids together on a Saturday to do a little bit of a coding class, they're like, oh my God, I gotta go to coding class. They're so elated just to be online with other kids. Awesome. And seeing each other and having fun with it. If we don't make it fun, there's no point, because the kids are just gonna check out anyway, whatever you do. Everybody wave.
And while Dorian can't help but miss his in-person interactions,
I may want to go back because I'm just taking a little break.
It'll be learning in Mom's classroom for the foreseeable future. I'm Usher Qureshi reporting.
Usher, thank you. And last on our lineup today, fitness centers were forced to get creative when they had to close their doors last year. How one expert says this could change the industry long term.
Here are some of the stories we're working on for Krhd News at 6. The results from the 2020 census are officially out. What impact the results have on the Brazos Valley and the changing demographics across the entire state. That's coming up at 6. Plus, as inflation seems to be settling in some markets, home appliances are still seeing a major increase in price. We'll explain the lifespan of many of your common appliances to help you save your money. These stories and more coming up on Krhd News at 6. Well, World News Tonight is just ahead, and we're back in 30 minutes for News at 6. Until then, have a